I try my best in these videos to not research things before because I want to show everyone, hey, this is what I would say if they were in my living room, if they were in my studio singing the exact same thing. These are the things going through my head, and hopefully just analyzing them a little bit and pointing out the things they're doing well and the things that kind of stand out as a little bit funky would help you understand how a voice teacher, someone who does this, will analyze a voice and try to give them ways to kind of get better and stuff. So I pride myself on not doing prior research. I pride myself on having not seen this before I'm doing it right now. Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing a bunch of singers at the Grammys.
And to kick it all off, it's Lizzo.
Tonight is for Kobe. I'm crying 'cause I love you.
At the beginning, she used that kind of cry sound to start onsetting it. Well, it wasn't really like a cry onset, it was a cry affect. We're all hurting right now, and she was hurting probably, and also was just able to get into that space. So I think that using that cry is a really great way to kind of get to some of those high notes in a full connected sounding voice. Some might call it a mixed voice, some might call it a belt. All these terms are so silly, and because like everyone uses them in a slightly different way. But, for me, that was a connected, seamless transition up to the top note. And that cry kind of affect was really helpful in getting to it. So I use that a lot with my students, actually, where it's like, okay, just cry into it like you're a little baby or something, because babies have great, seamless voices. And if we can kind of use those same sounds of just mimicking it, or even using just the emotional need to cry that everyone has and putting that into your songs, it can actually have really good effects to how the voice actually operates.
Never been in love before. I don't wanna feel these feelings, yo. Once upon a time I was a hoe. I don't even wanna hold no more. Got you something from the liquor store. Little bit of Lizzo and some more. Trying to open up a little more. Sorry if my heart a little slow. I thought that I didn't care.
She can obviously breathe without making sound. She's wanting us to hear the sound when she's breathing, because whatever that sound sounds like to her is what she wants it to sound like. Because she could either pull the microphone away, do a Tay-Zonday,
stop, let rain,
or she could just not breathe as loud. She is totally capable of doing that. She's doing it on purpose. That said, it is a little bit more of a shallow breath. So for some of these longer phrases, I doubt that she would want to have that little kind of gasping sound. She'd probably let it be a more full diaphragmatic breath rather than clavicular and kind of gasping. But it also makes us feel this sense of panic throughout. So there are reasons for all of these sounds, and she is not a dummy. She knows why she's doing it, and it's because she wants those sounds, and she can get away with it without it wrecking the rest of her performance. Where for most people, if we breathe like that for an entire song, you'll be hyperventilating at the end. So kind of cut that out until you know that it's like for a specific reason.
I thought I was loving pain.
I like that little growl. So that's up to the same C that she came in earlier that I said she kind of cried into. That time it was a much more open vowel. It was that ah. It didn't have as much of the cry in it, but I think that because she used that at the beginning, which was kind of a lower stakes situation, it's harder to mess up, basically. She knows what it's supposed to feel like, and she basically used that first note to kind of warm up into this one.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
That time she flips. So you can hear a very specific difference in tone color between the bottom note and the top note, where she goes to more of the that classical soprano sort of sound. To me, that's flipping. Whenever I say flipping, that's kind of what I mean. There are different levels of flip, and that's mostly just like a tonal component. What she did, like we could go into the M1 mode for the lower stuff and the M2 mode for the top stuff, or you could, like, all of these are different ways that you can describe what she's doing. For me, we just hear this massive color change, which tells me that she has both of these balanced quite well, because if you don't have them balanced, like the first sound that you do might influence the second one, but what we're able to do is flip into that second place, which is a lot less energy, it's a lot less chord closure because it's just the vocal ligament kind of coming together rather than the full body of the folds. But it is a lot less pressured of a sound as well. And so I think you can actually use that kind of flip, that yodel, to kind of reduce pressure if you're spending a lot of time in this very heavy pressured belt situation, which over time can become really wearing.
I'm crying 'cause I love you.
So the highest she goes is to that C, which is about as high. I mean, it's as high as most people in just a untechniqued belt yell kind of thing are able to get to. I think she is techniqued with it. I think that she's doing it in a way that is fairly sustainable, and she has a little bit more room to keep going up. And that's just like, when I hear it, it doesn't sound like she's maxed out at the top of her range. It sounds like there's another like few steps that she could keep going while maintaining that tone, while maintaining that connection before having to flip up into a different coordination. If she wasn't being as heavy with it, not talking about her weight, I'm talking about the sound of her voice. Like, the sound of her voice is thick. It's a big sound. So if she kind of thinned that out as she was going higher, it would make it even easier to go toward those top notes if she was going higher than the C5, but she doesn't need to. And so we're able to get this really robust sound from her up to the C. It doesn't sound like she's freaking out when she goes to it. It sounds like she's able to trust it really well.
We're in the ring, but ain't gon' be no misses. By matching diamonds, but 6 of my bitches. I'd rather spoil all my friends with my riches. Think we tether and be my new addiction. Whoever said mine can't solve your problems must not have had enough money to solve.
It sounds almost like she's out of breath, and I'm not sure why. I mean, maybe she just got done with a big dance number. I haven't seen these before. Like, I try my best in these videos to not research things before, because I want to show everyone, hey, this is what I would say if they were in my living room, if they were in my studio singing the exact same thing. These are the things going through my head, and hopefully just analyzing them a little bit and pointing out the things they're doing well and the things that kind of stand out as a little bit funky would help you understand how a voice teacher, someone who does this, will analyze a voice and try to give them ways to kind of get better and stuff. So I pride myself on not doing prior research. I pride myself on having not seen this before I'm doing it right now. So it sounds kind of like she's out of breath in a different way than the Lizzo one sounded like. Lizzo didn't sound like she was out of breath, even though she was getting that kind of gasping sound with her air. With Ari, it's almost like she's just taking really, really shallow breaths, because, I mean, she was moving, and yes, that will affect your breath, but, like, her cardio is really good, and I doubt that she was moving as much as the rest of the dancers around her. So with that, it's just like, maybe she was a little nervous. I mean, it is the Grammys, and even people who are amazing performers and who do it in front of millions of people like she does, like, they can get nervous sometimes. Not saying that's definitely what's happening, but maybe. And when you get nervous, sometimes your breaths become a little bit more shallow. Whatever the reason is, it sounded like her breaths were a little bit more shallow. So that would be a good thing to kind of warm up with right before you come on stage, is like, okay, this is what it feels like to breathe really deep and full. It's a calming effect. There is nothing bad about kind of setting up the expectation of having a nice low breath. I don't know why she'd want to sound out of breath with it, which makes me wonder, like, is it a choice? Probably not. So that's the first thing to kind of look at, because she is breathing like every measure or two, which for someone who is as good of a singer as her, she doesn't need to do it. And so it's like, why is she doing it? And to me, it's just not reading as a choice.
They say which one I said. Happiness is the same price as red bottoms, yeah.
That said, like, when she starts getting to the actual singing, it doesn't sound like she's hemorrhaging air. It doesn't sound like a super breathy sound. It sounds like her vocal folds are working quite well. It sounds like her vowels are really good. It sounds like she's just full of confidence, so I don't think that it's like the nerves thing. I'm not sure what that was, but it was a little bit off to me. But the tone when she's actually singing sounded really, really good. So it's confusing. I don't know why that happens.
Don't you know too much?
Gosh, I love this song.
I'll only hurt you if you let me. Call me friend, but keep me closer.
It's a really delicate sound. It's super quiet, but it still sounds on the voice to me, which if it was off the voice, it would become like super breathy. You wouldn't be able to sustain the vocal fold closure. So there's kind of a minimum threshold of pressure that everyone needs in order to sing. And that's different based on the size of the voice and based on a bunch of different things. But it's like for her, she's able to sing really, really soft and keep it kind of on the voice. As she's going up a little bit louder, like I do see her jaw kind of engaging or like sticking out a little bit and just a little bit of extra pressure. Again, it's not a huge deal yet. It's just something that like as you start increasing the pressure, which will increase the volume, it messes things up a little bit most of the time. So with her, like I don't see her sing loud very often, so it's not as big of a deal because, you know, we can get away with a little bit of that pressure, a little bit of that tension. But if she was to just really belt out this next line, you know, that sets you up so that that next line already has a little bit of pressure, a little bit of tension introduced. That's harder. It's just harder. Like, it's not bad. It's not like she can't do it. It's just harder. Make things easy on yourself.
And I'll call you when my
But she goes to that softer place. She doesn't need to kind of go into that really belty place yet. She's so good at that delicate little stuff. That's different. That's a lot more pressure underneath. That's a louder sound. I like that. I like it like that. I am not lying. And then as she was coming down from that kind of beltier position, again, like she could keep going further, but she doesn't need to. And this is so emotional and so good. She's absolutely connected to what she's singing. And to me, that's number one. Like when you're performing like this, who cares about what the technique is? I'm just doing this so that you guys can learn how she's doing it a little bit better. And so that maybe if she ever watched this for some reason, she could be like, yeah, maybe I hadn't really thought of that. But I bet she's thought about most of this stuff before. But for her, she's just thinking about what she's communicating. Her focus is entirely communication, and she is damn good at it.
But nothing is better sometimes. Once we've both said our goodbyes, let's just let it go.
So kind of like how I was talking about Lizzo earlier using that cry sound. With her, we get some of that, but every emotion that she's feeling, like that affects how we use our voice. And it's a higher level, it's kind of the next level of singing where you just trust that you're capable of making all of these sounds. You've done the technique work, you've done your warm-ups, you've practiced all of that, you can trust your voice, and then you just feel. And however you feel when you communicate, it affects how you use your voice. When you're angry at someone, you don't consciously say, I'm going to raise my voice and I'm going to do all of this most of the time, like some people do. But I mean, it's a thing that naturally happens. When you're sad, we don't think about doing this thing, right? But it just naturally happens to our voice. With her, she is feeling these things so heavily and just sharing that with us. And there is no barrier between it. I think that's super powerful. That's next level performing. That's why she's getting all of these accolades at 18 and just sweeping the Grammys. It's like unbelievable. But it's because she's good. It's because she's really good.
wants attention. I think I cried too many times. I just need some more affection. Anything to get me by. 100 million stories and 100 million songs. I feel stupid when I sing.
Yeah, she's connected too. She knows what she's singing about. It really matters to her. It's affecting her face. It's affecting her voice. There's not that wall in between of like, okay, I'm feeling these things, but I'm going to keep it in my head and I'm going to keep my eyes closed all the time, which is generally associated with it. It's possible to kind of, for some people, to have their eyes closed and to still be present and like communicate it with people. It's just an extra layer. It's another brick on the wall. With her, like, she is so freaking good. Just the pure power of her emotion, like, just gets it there. So a lot of times we do hear a little bit of an extra push in her voice. But to me, that doesn't really matter because it kind of amplifies that emotion. And when you're in her situation where she's just feeling things and communicating that with people, like, that little bit of push, The main concern is that you're not able to do it every single day, right? Because when you're a professional singer, they're singing up to 8 times a week. If you're on Broadway, like 8 times a week, right? If you're someone like Demi, like maybe you have 6 shows in a week or something, and that's a lot. So if you're not able to do these sounds 6 times in a week, then that's a thing that you need to kind of question. Is this sound working for me? But technique gets us to a place where you can be expressive and where you can be in the moment with your emotions and let that do the driving rather than thinking about, okay, what am I supposed to do with the technique, whatever. If you're thinking about that, you haven't practiced the technique enough. If you're thinking about that, you haven't done your reps. Whether it's specific, I'm going to do these exercises over and over kind of reps, or whether it's just singing in your bedroom every day when you're a child until you're 18, and then people saying, oh my gosh, you're such a good singer. Have you ever practiced or had lessons? No, I haven't. Wow, I guess I'm just a natural talent. But you practiced. And either way, it doesn't really matter because the end result is the same, where you can trust that whatever you're thinking is going to work, that there's not going to be that barrier. And if you have that barrier still, that's where you need to go, like, kind of fiddle with the technique, get under the hood of the car, fix some stuff. But when you're at this level that you're just emoting, come on, there's not much you can say because, like, the main question is this effective communication? For me, I think it is. For her, like, it obviously is. For all of the millions of fans who love her, it obviously is working. And so quibbling over technique, like, there's a point just to learn how it's working and all of that. But it's like, who cares if she could have had a little bit more open vowel on a certain thing, or if she could have tuned it into a different way, unless it, like, totally falls apart. But for her, she's, like, a very consistent singer, so it's not worth thinking about most of the time.
Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's listening. I talk to shooting stars, but they always get it wrong. I feel stupid when I pray. Why the hell am I praying anyway? If nobody's listening, anyone, please send me anyone, Lord.
So that's up to the B already. It sounds like she could keep going higher and higher and higher. It doesn't sound like nearly as hefty as the sounds that Lizzo was creating around the same place. And to me, that's the difference. So, like, rewind this video, go back to Lizzo, listen to how she was singing the C versus how Demi was doing it. And some of it could be like Lizzo just has a bigger voice than Demi. I don't know if that's true because, like, I don't know either of their voices well enough to have any sort of authority on that. But what this sounds like is a little bit thinner of a chord. It sounds like less of the vocal fold is coming together. It sounds less hefty. It sounds like there's a little bit more like nasal resonance or this turnover. And it just sounds like there's more room to go up high. At least for me, that's kind of what it sounds like. So I would prefer this kind of sound from a student where it's like, oh yeah, this is a lot higher. That said, like, again, it worked. Both of them worked. She has a really open vowel, even though it's a little bit of a thinner sound. And then she goes up to the F sharp. Her mouth is the same all the way through this area though, because she's got kind of that thinner posture already before she starts going to the top. Holy crap, she is good. But her mouth shape has been this wide all the way from the B up to the F sharp, which, you know, F sharp is freaking high. And being able to hold on to that connected, full voiced sound, M1 all the way up to F sharp 5, that's difficult for a lot of people. But it's a combination of a few things. It's a combination of the laryngeal position just not being like super, super high. It's a combination of her vocal folds like working really well, thinning out naturally rather than like trying to pull this weight up, because otherwise it just won't work if it wasn't thinning out like this. And about having a good vowel that just works as you start going higher. And there's a point that you just have to open your mouth. And she's opened her mouth real wide. And she's preparing for that F sharp all the way at the B. And if she was singing the B a little bit different, when she went up to the F sharp, it wouldn't work as wonderfully as it did.
I need someone. 100 million stories and 100 million songs. I feel stupid when I sing. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's listening.
She's awesome. She's a really good singer. Just technically, again, like all of these singers are so technically great, right? I mean, Demi is amazing. Ariana is amazing. Lizzo is really good. Like, they're all very good technical singers, but the thing that makes us connect with them is not their technique. So all of you stans who think that it's just like, oh my gosh, Mariah's technique is so much better than everyone else's. Sohyung's technique is so much better than everyone else's, even though it probably is. Like, that's not why you like them. You don't like them because of their technique being so amazing. You like them because they're emotional. So admit it. Like, it's not shameful to like something, and if you follow that logical path, it just makes it so much easier to like what you like, because we're not like, okay, well, I really like this, but the technique is terrible, so I guess I have to hate it, or it's a guilty pleasure or whatever. No, it's making you feel, so let that happen. There is no shame in feeling. None. I don't know why I'm so on this right now, but it means something to me, and so I hope it means something to you too. Just go love something, and let yourself be vulnerable, because they sure are, and that's why it's working. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, ring the bell, all of the YouTube-y things. Go follow me on social media, links are in the bottom, and go join my Discord and talk about voice and about being nice to people, and there's also a link below. Thank you.